I hope she didn't just hear me say I want to cling to her like a koala, but it is a very, very dire time for the rule of law in the United States of America, for someone that's dedicated their life to the Constitution. Okay, I'm just calming myself. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, Maya Wiley. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I want to cling to you.
Anytime, Stephanie.
Well, only because you've been such a great defender of the Constitution, and we currently have someone in the White House who is not.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you.
I mean, I was thinking of you yesterday, Maya, with all of this stuff happening. In your tweet, you said there is only one side. It's the side of the Constitution. That's the side we all need to be on. And it was, that is, as usual, so eloquent. But I mean, this is a really dangerous time, isn't it? So we have the President of the United States, basically authorizing the Attorney General to investigate his political opponents, right?
Yes, and even suggesting that the U.S. government has somehow done something wrong by investigating what Russia was doing during the campaign and whether or not it was attempting to infiltrate Donald Trump's campaign, which, by the way, the FBI had informed the Trump campaign it was concerned about. And remember, the Muller Report confirms what we had already been hearing in so many news reports, that there were so many efforts by Russian nationals and members of the Russian government to have contact with the campaign. Right. So it's the notion that somehow our government was doing something wrong that requires investigation is itself fundamentally an attack on the rule of law, because it's essentially saying if the President of the United States, when he was a candidate, posed any kind of concern for national security, the government was not allowed to investigate whether or not, in fact, there was a national security interest because he won.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which makes no sense.
Right. I mean, so many things I wanted to. Justin Miller on Twitter says Trump authorizes Barr to reveal whatever he wants about the Russia investigation, yet they refuse to reveal the full Muller report and evidence.
Or his tax returns.
Right.
Or his right. Remember that this is in a context where the story of what happened during the campaign and after did not go away. And it did not go away in part because despite the fact that Donald Trump has suggested that the Mueller report said no collusion and found no wrongdoing, it was very clear that the Mueller report did not say that.
Right.
In fact, what the Mueller report said is it couldn't establish, it didn't have sufficient evidence. Certainly one arm of that Russian infiltration, which was the Internet Research Agency, the Mueller report does say was not disclosing to the campaign who they actually were and what they were actually doing. But that has nothing to do with the other aspects of contact with Russia and Russian nationals, including the Trump Tower meeting with Jared Kushner and Don Jr., where they knew, they had full knowledge that they were going to meet with a Russian national that they believed to be connected to the Russian government in order to get Hillary Clinton dirt. So, in that context, and in the context when you add that the Mueller report very clearly says, I've got the Office of Legal Counsel saying I can't indict a sitting president. This is Congress's job to take a look at this evidence on obstruction and make its own determination. I mean, he didn't say it that clearly, but any lawyer reading it, I think many of us reading it would say that's the only way to read it. So in that context, to say no collusion, I was exonerated, and the story's not going away, so I am going to do everything in my power to stop doing the people's business as president, to try to bully Congress to not engage in oversight, despite that's its constitutional obligation.
All right, counselor, sidebar.
Yes, sorry.
I have while you were talking.
It's been a week.
I know. While you were talking, I seriously I have like 6 different questions that all popped up because there's so. I mean, first of all, you were speaking about Mueller. You obviously tweeted about if we'd see a transcript and it's a complete transcript, Mueller can testify in public. Judge Napolitano on Fox News said Mueller didn't indict Trump for clearly criminal obstruction probably because Bill Barr wouldn't allow it. I mean,
and we know that Robert Mueller raised concerns directly with the Attorney General about how he was portraying his report, so the idea that Congress and the public can't get and understand that, get the story and understand that, when it raises some very serious questions about that we already had because of the way William Barr wrote his initial summary of the report, which many of us, just upon seeing those 4 pages, said, wait, you quoted half a sentence on collusion, on quote unquote collusion, right, which was really conspiracy. Later, he uses the term collusion over and over and over. And when Robert Mueller's report clearly said collusion is not the right term, it's not a legal term. And then
That being said, there seems to be plenty of it.
Collusion. And the other thing is, remember, Robert Mueller had a criminal standard of evidence, right?
But why do you
Congress
think
does not?
Yeah, no, I got it. It seems clear that they let this was a roadmap for Congress. Why do you think Mueller doesn't want to testify publicly, though?
Well, I think I hesitate to assume, but my best guess is, one, Robert Mueller is by the book Bob, and what he is a straight and narrow. I'm going to stay off the political track. I'm going to stay in my lane. Some may argue to a fault in terms of how he handled the report, right? But I think everything he has done has indicated he's trying to stay within the lines, within the boundaries of law and law enforcement, and not cross the boundary into politics. He understands and wants Congress to do its job, but he also understands it's political. So he wants, I think what he wants to do is I want to give Congress, I want to give you all the information you want to have and you need to know. I do not want to play a part in political theater. Now, I think for many of us,
if you can't indict and you can only impeach, then it by definition is political, right?
Well, I think this is the conundrum, right? I think if things had happened with in the way they should have, one, some of us would say, myself included, he should have made some statement about obstruction, certainly, right, in terms of the way it's written. When I read that, and I keep rereading parts of it to say, what did I miss? What have I forgotten? But as I read it, I'm not sure why we didn't see statements to suggest that he thought that there was a chargeable case of obstruction of justice, and certainly I'm not clear why he didn't charge, even under the context of that Trump Tower meeting, why there wasn't a criminal indictment on campaign finance violations for trying to get a thing of value from a foreign government. So there are questions about why he wasn't, and I think I think if I had to guess, again, I would say it's because he's trying to be very careful about boundaries and about not inappropriately undermining a sitting president, not being sure about the criminal standard, and having this OLC, Office of Legal Counsel memo. But I think the problem here is the constitutional process requires Congress to be able to assess the evidence, and I think in a context in which the American people did not get a full and fair and neutral story about the report before its release.
That's right. Well, that's why we need to hear from Mueller.
Right. The American people need to hear. Right. But, Americans are perfectly capable of coming to their own decisions based on what they're hearing. And we see it all the time in debate.
I also want to see the first letter from Mueller to Barr. I know, a lot of experts have asked for that. And why aren't we demanding that? Speaking of, you've mentioned Trump Tower meeting, and I keep meaning to interject. I'm like, I really need to have like a 5-hour show with Maya.
Or just wine. Can we just have wine?
Yes, I know.
Yes, yeah,
Did you see Joyce White's tweet about it, all of you guys?
Yes, we're
drinking wine.
We're all trying to figure out how to make that.
I know. I was like, can I come if I bring Lawrence Tribe and Matt Miller as my party favors? I'll make s'mores.
Well, Lawrence Tribe and Matt Miller have to bring snacks.
Yes.
So now, is it me, or did Trump admit to advance knowledge of the Trump Tower meeting at this Rose Garden meltdown? Right? Let's see. I'm reading from the story about it. At first, Trump told Reuters that he didn't know about the meeting until the New York Times broke a story on it. The first time the president said that he talked to Don Jr. before he went. This is the first time he said that he talked to him before he went into the meeting. Right?
Well, we know he talked to him before he went
into.
Well, let's just be clear. We know he talked to him before he went into the meeting at some point, because Michael Cohen says he was sitting in Trump's office. This was before the meeting when Trump got a phone call from Don Jr. and obviously Michael Cohen was not hearing Don Jr.'s side of the conversation. It wasn't on speakerphone, but he got the distinct impression that that was being communicated to the president. And the other thing we know is in the days between that meeting, meaning that call with Don Jr. and the actual meeting, he said publicly, Donald Trump said publicly, more is coming. We're going to get more dirt on Hillary now.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I think we've seen lots of indication that he may have known, and certainly evidence that could have been used against a private citizen if he or she had been indicted.
Well, this is why Cohen just called, through Lanny Davis, just called on Jay Sekulow to testify under oath like he has. He's still the only one that's testified under oath and not taken the fifth, right? About all of this stuff. And in fact, he said, Lanny's statement, it says, he said, in fact, Mr. Trump knew during the campaign this is about Trump Tower Moscow were happening. And he and his family were briefed by Michael during that time period, and there is corroborating evidence to prove it. That's kind of a big deal as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
There you have it.
Yeah, you tweeted, this poll finds most Americans want Mueller, 73%, and McGahn, 2/3, to testify. It doesn't sound like most people think congressional oversight is a do-over.
Right.
So obviously, a lot of these cases are being fast-tracked. I know our Watergate buddy, Joe Weinbank, said, look, the courts can move faster than you think. They did in Watergate, and that certainly seems to be happening. But where are you on impeachment? Calling it impeachment, will that expedite? When do you do it? Where are you on that today?
Well, look, I think the critically important thing is that the American people have to hear directly from these witnesses what they told Robert Mueller and get past this whole, what Mueller did or did not say in his report and just hear it directly for themselves. I think that what Nancy Pelosi was absolutely right to say is there has been a cover-up. There's plenty of indication that this administration, and on all manner of things, by the way, right, and on other, it has been trying to prevent it's the executive branch from testifying in Congress, even on the people's business, day-to-day business. But I say that because I think the point is the proper process is that Congress should hear the evidence, have hearings in order to determine whether or not it wants to vote impeachment. And it seems to me, certainly, that there is sufficient evidence in the public record, in the Robert Mueller report already, that would enable that vote. If Donald Trump and the Trump administration wants to continue to block Congress from doing a reasonable process and letting the American public hear it for themselves, I don't know what else they can do. But simply go to the impeachment vote. Because if on a record like we have in public right now, Congress doesn't feel it can make a decision, I'm not sure when it can. I'm not sure that's not and I'm not talking about what happens in the Senate. A lot of the debate has been, well, if you can't get a vote out of the Senate, if you can't get the conviction
Yeah.
out of the Senate, then there's no point. And I think that misunderstands fundamentally the way that the Constitution asks our government to have a conversation with the people
Yeah.
about what it knows and what it thinks. And the people will decide
Yeah.
at election time if there's no actual
Yeah.
impeachment.
This is
But it
part of
will
the 2020 case,
this
right?
is, Right. This is the process by which the American public can make its own informed decision.
Yep.
And my concern is that really what's happening here is an effort to prevent people from being able to make their own decision.
Yep.
I would never tell anyone else what to think.
Yep.
I do want them to know what the facts are.
Yep, absolutely. And she's giving you some Memorial Day weekend reading the Muller Report. Maya points out on Twitter, no one has to buy the Muller Reports online for free.
Yep.
I think it is our patriotic duty.
And even if you don't want to read it, you can get the audio version and have it read to you.
There you go.
Well, and also,
Or you can come to Joyce's house.
Yes.
And we'll all read it to you.
And the screened-in porch.
I want to go to that book club.
Get me that invite, woman. I won't say a word. I will just sit there like a fly on the wall and listen to you guys.
We'll have to talk about what snacks you're bringing now,
Yeah.
Stephanie.
I'm making s'mores, whatever else you want, Maya Wiley.
Oh,
anything.
s'mores. Okay, well,
Listen,
all
my
right.
listeners are so excited. They love hearing you for a longer time, not on a panel with other people. They could listen, like me, they could listen to you all day long.
Yeah.
And they want to know more things. Like, for instance, what's Maya Wiley's life like? You're often on with Brian Williams, which is very late. What time do you teach law in the morning? What's Maya Wiley's life like?
Well, sleep is something Maya Wiley would like to have more in her life.
Yes.
Yes.
Sleep is optional during this crisis.
Enjoy
We're in a
Memorial Day
constitutional
weekend.
crisis. Yeah, I picture you
And
up
Brian Williams is lovely, so I will stay up late for Brian
Aw.
any day of the week.
I stalk you on Twitter when I'm not stalking you personally. Deutsche Bank, you see bombshells coming there. As you were saying, there's a reason that Trump would fight these subpoenas so hard. I mean,
Yep.
all of it, like Rachel said the other night, the dam's breaking, isn't it? Deutsche
The
Bank.
dam is breaking, and
Mazars.
remember that
Yeah.
that Donald Trump does not have the power to obstruct the state criminal investigations that he has tried to assert at the federal level, and a lot of that goes exactly to where he said his red line was
Yep.
on the Muller probe, which was his family's finances.
Yep.
And that Deutsche Bank, that's been a smelly thing for a long time, especially since Deutsche Bank does not have the cleanest reputation when it comes to money laundering.
Yeah.
The fact that we have an indictment of this Deutsche Bank official who was, clearly trying to curry favor with the administration.
Right.
These kind of, the corruption that surrounds this administration kind of hangs there like a layer of fog.
Yep.
And
Yep.
eventually these
A
investigations
smelly,
are going to
smelly fog.
A smelly fog. And these investigations are eventually going to blow through that smog.
Yep.
Maybe not on every single possible allegation, but certainly the financial stuff.
Yep.
Sorry, that's not executive privilege.
Yep.
That's not the people's business.
I know. It
you
warms
can't
the
protect
cockles of
against
my heart that as we speak, Maxine Waters is pawing through several of his bank records, including
Yes.
Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
I've been getting the break sign for about 10 minutes now, Maya, because I don't want to hang
She
up.
has a meeting at 10 a.m.
I know. All right. Maya, thanks so very much. I really appreciate it. And give me that invite. Let's go.
Thank you.
Joyce White.
Pleasure.
All right.
Take care.
See you, Maya.